It's going to be Motorsport South Africa GT3 2023 season. Welcome to round number 6. Myself, Gary Fleming, the voice of SA Oval, joined with the voice of Western Province Motorsport, Frankie Yennis. Frankie, what is nice? Okay, a Saturday is always nicer to be at the track, but this has got to be a very, very close second. And good evening to you.
Guys, good evening, everybody at home, wherever you're watching this show. Good day to you. We come to you from Milan, Italy, in what's going to be the Temple of Speed. It is the Autodromo Nazionale Monza, and outside temperature 26 degrees, partly cloudy, 10 km/h wind. Track temperature is 41 degrees, and the track is just over 5.75 kilometers long, and this is going to be fantastic stuff. The MSA GT3 Series, backed by Motorsports South Africa and brought to you by Canvas Intelligence, and production done by Second Gear Productions.
As you say, Frankie, the temple of speed, and the pace is going to be utterly brilliant. Just looking at what we were privileged to watch with the pre-qualifying session, the top 12 guys within 1 second of one another.
Well, yeah, if that's in practice, I tell you what, there's going to be something else. John Weiss, he's the man out there on the track in that BMW of his. He's the first man out there with 1 minute and 25 seconds done in the qualifying stint. We now move on to Raymond Duggan out there. Raymond Duggan, strange to see him in the Toyo Tires BMW. Normally see Raymond out in a Ferrari, but that is Stefan Wessel, sorry. That's out there in that Audi. Then we've got another Stephen out there. That's Duplessis in that number 5 Porsche of his.
And then another Stephen out there, and that's Graham Stephen. And he's in his favorite colors. Captain Peter van der Smey, nice to see him back out there. He's in the Red Bull colors tonight. Elwin Sykes joins us once again. And he's got some nice delivery on there. Is Jacques Boerter. And one of the Mercedes-Benz drivers, Stephen Cakebreed. He's getting better and better all the time. Our local man, JJ van der Merwe. You can't miss the color of that motor car. And then, well, the man himself, Durant Motorsport, probably going to see him at the sharp end of the field. That is Umpi Swart.
Yeah, Yuri Umpi Swart. There is a Byron Mitchell out there with the Audi R8, also part of Durant Motorsport. Coming through there is Chase Herald Racing. That is Mr. Chase Herald himself in that 29 BMW of Chase Herald Racing. Then Duncan Murray out there with that Ferrari of his. Duncan out there. And then coming through, that is Andrew Thomas, the man of Racebook Media. That's out there with that number 14 Porsche.
Willem Boerter also out on circuit on the RDSA, the race driver South Africa car. I see, oh, nice to have Johan Ferrari out there again. He's in the monster colors, he's in the Ferrari 488 GT3. Jason Kutsia, the wonderkind, that's back out there again, and he's in the Mint Wraps 77. And Mr. Luke Lucchesi.
Yeah, Luke out there in the 24 car for Race Driver SA and Esports, I should say, and Pantera Racing. Then you got Tristan de Nobrega, also for RDSA Esports. I saw Tristan last weekend at the SA Karting National Championship. There's a Dotsoft BMW of Luke King, busy working his way around. And there is a Sujin Properties man, and that is young Troy Donacek.
He'll probably be the first man to put up a lap time. Let's just put the track map up there for you as we see the Troy Donacek coming through. The next one behind that will be Luke Lucchesi. And Troy Donacek puts up his time. Luke Lucchesi, the next man that's going to be coming through. And then looks like Jonty Weiss is going to be out there as well. Yeah, Jonty Weiss, he goes second fastest of everybody out there. The train driver comes through, Tristan de Nobrega. Oh, Umpi Swart, good evening, goeienaand, hello, Dumelang. Umpi Swart goes provisionally onto the front end of the grid, and he's got Troy Donacek alongside him.
Hey,
Stephen Wessels, look at that.
Is well in that third position. He's just got his nose ahead there of Jonty Weiss.
Well, I think the happiest man right now must be Jonty Weiss. I don't think he would expect to be ahead of the likes of Luke King, Jason Kutsia, Johan Ferrari putting in a banker lap. Then he's got, that's getting a bit wide there for Jonty Weiss. He's got his quick lap in. Probably going to battle to get any quicker than that. So you'll probably find he's going to go all or nothing on the lap that he's on right now.
So we watch Jonty Weiss working his way around, 0.4 of a second off Yuri Swart. That is Zach Foster. That's busy working his way around, 1.4 off Umpi Swart in the Monster Energy Mercedes-Benz AMG. Then we've got Noah Hendricks coming through. Noah Hendricks in that Ferrari. And Noah Hendricks must still put up a time as Noah. Donacek still in that second position, 0.2 of a second off Yuri Umpi Swart in the Sujin Properties BMW.
Yep, Yuri comes around now. You can see that 148, 132. That's what he's got to get to if he wants to get on the right side of the grid. Nope, he's not going to be able to do it. And Umpi Swart is the man that's still the quickest out there. Sandro Bakari working his way around. He'll be the next man to come across the line. And I don't think he's put up a time yet. Do I see him there? No, there. Sandro Bakari goes and puts up a time. Tristan de Nobrega comes across the line as well. He does a 149 flat. So that's also a pretty interesting time. Julian from the RS. Chase Herald is working his way around. Let's see if he can go any quicker. Ooh, Luke King pops in there, and he's just alongside Julian from the RS. A lot of the top guys have, in fact, already finished their laps. Let's see, is Johan Ferrari out there? No, Johan
Yes, he
Ferrari.
is. Johan just put up a personal best of a 1:48.598, and he's moved up to P6 ahead there of Byron Mitchell.
Well, slowing down also is Chase Herald. He's finished his last lap as well. So just about everybody has completed their times very, very quickly. It's only 6 minutes 47 of the possible 10 minutes. So Stephen Duplessis is working his way around. It looks like this is his second lap that he is on. Graham Stevens still, he's already done his 2 laps. He's finished and stopped. Duncan Murray, whereabouts is Duncan Murray? Well, he's still putting foot. It looks like he's on a flyer, and with just under 3 minutes to go, Duncan Murray, Raymond Duggan, should I say, he will be able to post another time. 1.6 off the fastest lap times. The top 13 within a second of one another. This is going to be something else.
Yeah, all the way from Yuri Swart down to Luke Lucchesi. Not a good qualifying stint for Luke. Sitting there in P13.960 off pole sitter Umpi Swart. As we watch a 72 Ferrari of Sandro Beccari work its way around the Temple of Speed, and he dives into the pit lane.
Next man coming through will be Willem Botha. Let's see if he can go any quicker.
Stays in P15, 1.4 off Umpi Swart.
Raymond Duggan.
Raymond stays in that 22nd position, 1.670 off Umpi Swart.
This is going to be something else. Stefan Duplessis still on his way around. JJ van der Merwe and Noor Hendricks. That's the last 3 people that are still out on circuit, and they should all make it to complete their second lap. So 25 people that have got lap times in. No lap time for Stephen Cakebread. No lap time for Pieter Joubert. No lap time for Corne Breet, and neither of those 3 are out on the circuit either. Could they be busy with penalties, Frankie? Not that I am aware of.
Well, I don't quite know why they're out there. Not out there, I should say. But if they do start, they'll have to start off the back of the grid, and then we'll have to see if they are there. And if they're there, well, then they can do their thing. We've done 8 minutes and 55 seconds, so there's a minute and 5 seconds. Make that a minute now to go before the end of the qualifying stint for this 90-minute GT3 race, brought to you by Canvas Intelligence, Motorsports South Africa, and produced by Second Gear Productions.
Yeah, big thanks to Canvas Intelligence, putting their money where their mouth is, and well, they chose the right series. There's no doubt about that. There you see the 22 car on its way down the Reta Filho Central and working towards Reta Filho itself, one of the most well-known corners. And as he works his way out into the front main with 21 seconds to go, I think he'll get a chance to go into the pits. He's realized he's not going to make it, and that is where they are going to stand. It's Raymond Duggan that was the last man that was out on circuit, 9 seconds to go, and then the grid will come up. What an amazing front row of the grid. Umpi Swart and Troy Dolenchek. Who's going to back out between the 2 of them going into turn 1?
No, not one of them.
Nobody.
Not one of them will back out. That you can rest assured. So, here we go. MSA GT3 Series, round 6. And the front row is Yuri Umpi Swart, Troy Dolenchek. Second row, Julian Familiaris, Luke King. Third row, Chanti Weiss and Johan Fourie.
Wow, that is something else. Then it's Byron Mitchell, Jason Garcia, Jacques Botha, and Noor Hendricks round out the top 10.
Row 6, Chase Herald and Tristan de Nobrega. Row 7, Luke Lucchesi and Stefan Wessels. Row 8, Willem Botha, Zak Foster. Row 9, Peter van der Spey, Stephen Duplessis. And row 10, Andrew Thomas and Graham Stephen.
Just outside of the top 20, Duncan Murray with Raymond Duggan, Alwyn Sykes, JJ van der Merwe, Sandro Beccari, and then, as we said, Corne Breet, Stephen Cakebread, and Pieter Joubert in the 777. The man that loves yellow motor cars has not put up a lap time at all, so that's going to be A very difficult one for him coming off the tail end of the field. That's what it looks like. And, well, I think we're in for one hell of a race. Frankie, that front, shall we call it the front six? Umpi, Troy, Julian, Luke, Jonty, Johan.
I'm going to go as far as saying that top 12 that you're showing there on the screen, that is probably where all the action's going to be, unless they decide to self-destruct in the opening lap. What these guys tend to forget is you cannot win it on lap 1, but you can lose it on lap 1. You've got 90 minutes, so there's no reason to do anything silly out there.
I was going to say, who do you fancy amongst them? And straight away, the first thought that went to mind was, okay, so how are you six going to stay ahead of Byron Mitchell, Jason Garcia, Jacques Botha, Noor Hendricks, once again, top 10, ahead of the highly acclaimed Chase Herald and the train driver, Tristan de Nobrega. So Noor Hendricks, a very, very good qualifying for him.
So we're just waiting for them to take their grid positions. Tristan de Nobrega, is he there? He's looks like they're all on.
Tristan's in the pits, and Piri Hubert has not clicked in at all.
Okay, well that 25 that we see there is on. Obviously the guys behind them haven't clicked in as they move off the line. Now let's have a look where they're going to. I think they will be making their way towards the Parabolica shortly. I'll tell you exactly now where they are. They're going through Ascari. They're working their way through Ascari. Then that long straight before we get to Parabolica, which is the final corner. And then the safety car will peel off into pit lane, which will be on its right-hand side. Lights will go green, and 90 minutes of pandemonium will be underway.
No, Frankie, it's a race. It's not pandemonium.
Tell these guys it's a race.
Expect the best, and if the worst happens, we'll go with that. Folks, good evening to you one and all. Myself, Gary Fleming, the voice of SA Oval, the voice of West Province Motorsport, alongside me, Frankie Yernes. We are going to come to you live with round number 6, Motorsports South Africa, iRacing South Africa, GT3 2023 Championship. This is what it's all about. Julian from the iRSA finds himself on the second row of the grid. Ahead of him, the two frequent flyers, Yuri Umpiswart and Troy Dolenchik. How do you get past them? Here we go.
Safety cars peeled off. Wait for those lights to go onto green, and 90 minutes of action will be had as they drop the hammers. And away they go. And the Durant Motorsport boys are sitting in P1 and 2, racing down to turn number 1. That is Swart and Familiaris. They're going to have to be very, very careful here for this little right-left bend. It's going to catch you out if you don't do anything silly. You can be okay so far. No, there's drama. There's drama. Byron Mitchell got the tag there. He got himself slightly out of shape, but I don't think there's too much damage there for Mitchell. As a matter of fact, look at Familiaris. He's been attacked there by Dolenchik. Dolenchik will move up into that second position, or maybe not. They're side by side. Behind them is Luke King and Jonty Weiss.
Wow, what a brilliant session that was, as opposed to previous races that we've seen. Oh, you can't go 3 abreast through that part of the circuit. Going up into Lesmo 1, leading them out is Umpi Swart. In there behind him, still side by side, nobody's back. We said before the race started, who's going to back out? And Frankie's words was, neither of them. Troy Dolenchik from Jude from the RS, looking Jonty, and then Johan Ferry comes through behind that.
Yeah, Johan is sitting in there, and right on his case is Jason Kutsia. We'll put the intervals up for you now. We've got the battle box there, we've got the map, and then you'll see when the intervals come, it'll be all orange and yellow, all the way down to P20 at this point in time. Down that long straight they race towards Parabolica. It is Yuri Swart that sits out in P1, 2.1 seconds ahead there of Dolenchik. Right on his case is Familiaris. Look at this high-speed express train racing down towards Parabolica. Through the final corner they go. And Dolenchik is pulling the pin. He's nearly 2.2 seconds ahead. Swart's pulling the pin. He's nearly 2.2 seconds ahead of Dolenchik. That's got them all racked and stacked and packed in there as they race down towards Curva Grande.
Oh, look at that. The front man getting away. But Julian from the RS and Troy Dolenchik, nothing much in it. Troy Dolenchik, the blue car on the outside. They leave one another space. How's that for brilliant racing? Oh, just a little bit back. Jason Kutsia was going side by side. I think it was Johan Ferrari that was involved with that one. And Jonty Weiss is in there as well.
Yeah, he just made the move there on Johan did Jason Kutsia. And now he's got Jacques Buerta in there behind him has Fourie. So Fourie has been attacked there by Buerta. Buerta up on the inside, and then right behind them is a recovering Byron Mitchell. Remember, he got himself slightly out of shape, and hot on his heels is Chase Herald and Luke Lucchesi.
This can't last. It can't last. You cannot run side by side. Look at they got the whole. It should be Tristan Nobrega that should be at the front. And eventually, Troy Dolenchik gets ahead of Julian from the RS. Luke King's right in there as well. Jonty Weiss, Jason Kutsia, Jacques Buerta. As fast as you say the names, they come through. Byron Mitchell, Durant Motorsport, a bit of a gap between himself and Jacques Buerta. He's got to get onto the back of that train and pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, he's less than a second easy behind Buerta. Remember, look at Jason Kutsia, the Mint Rapworks car, and Durant Motorsport busy muscling his way through. Is Kutsia. Look at, they're using the track, they're using the grass, they're using everything here at Monza. But Dolenchik is just, I don't know, what do you say? Look at this long crocodile that's working its way down towards Parabolica. There goes Luke Lucchesi. Right behind him is Noah Hendricks. But back to the man that sits out there in P1. 4.2, it's Umpi Swart. And Tristan was telling me at the Karting Nationals last weekend, he said, Yuri Swart in that Ferrari is going to be the man to beat this coming Wednesday at Monza. And his words are true.
Ooh, look at that. Chase Herald dives towards the inside, tries to go up the inside of Johan Ferrari. Johan Ferrari gets muscled towards the outside with that Monster Energy car. Chase Herald goes through ahead of Johan Ferrari. Jacques Buerta. Jacques Buerta trying to have a look around on the outside. Chase Herald has made a bit of a gap because Johan Ferrari is going side by side with Jacques Buerta. But look at the battle directly behind that. Byron Mitchell, Jonty Weiss, Luke Lucchesi's in there as well.
Yeah, and Stefan Wessels is in that fight as well, and so is Andrew Thomas, and they now ahead of Noah Hendricks. This is happening all over the place. There is Mitchell up on the inside and takes that position away there from Johan Ferrari. Right behind Johan Ferrari is Jonty Weiss. Then the 24 car of Luke Lucchesi is right in there as well for race driver SA and Pantera Racing, and hassling him there 0.2 of a second is Stefan Wessels.
Oh, brilliant stuff. And the level of driving has been exceptional, utterly superb up until this point. Let's hope that it stays like that at this stage of the fight. It's really good. Going back to that man at the front end of the field, it's all about Umpi Swart. Here he comes, Troy Dolenchik. He's got that whole train behind him. Julian from the RS, Luke King, Jason Kutsia, Chase Herald. He's got away from Jacques Buerta, who's got away from Byron Mitchell. And then the whole queue starts. It's Johan Ferrari, Jonty Weiss, Luke Lucchesi, Stephen Wessels. As fast as you can say the name, Stephen Wessels has got a bit of a gap between himself. And there comes Andrew Thomas in the race driver SA car. He's got a bit of a gap on Zach Forster. You've got to believe Zach Forster is not out of this. Noor Hendricks that was in the top 10. He's dropped down to 15th position.
And right behind them is Willem Buerta. And right on his case is Stephen Duplessis. There is nothing between these drivers right now. Familiara sits there in that third position. Is just behind Dolenchik. There's Dolenchik, there's Familiaris, and somebody's turned it around. Is that Ferrari? Yes, it's Johan Ferrari. Johan Ferrari, I just saw him drop down the leaderboard. I'm not sure what happened. We'll pick it up on the replay now. Was there contact, or did he just lose the tail end? It just stepped out. Ooh, maybe Jonty Weiss had some doings there, but I don't think so. I think he just turned it around in front of Jonty Weiss.
I think it started stepping out before Jonty actually made any contact with him. Luke King's doing a pretty decent job. Once again, Luke King's doing a pretty decent job. He's holding on to that front back. Umpi Swart up, dust and disappear. Troy Dolenchik 4.8 seconds behind him. You ain't going to catch that man very easily. But remember, Troy Dolenchik has got Julian from the RS. That's all over the back of him. So Julian from the RS that leads out the best of the rest, with Luke King, Jason Kutsia and Chase Herald's having a pretty good one.
Well, I'll tell you what, these guys are going to have to get a move on, because Swart is nearly 5 seconds down the road ahead there of Dolenchik as we ride aboard The dot soft racing machine there of Luke King. That's the BMW of Luke King. Ahead of him he sees Familiaris. Ahead of Familiaris he sees a Dollar Check. As they work their way out of Parabolica, down that long main straight they go. I reckon 45, 50 minutes we'll see the first pit stop. Right now I'm not worried about pit stops. We've only done 7 minutes and 25. There's a long, long way to go. Here comes Chase Herald. That is the bumper cam of Chase, looking back at Jacques Bottas' AMG Mercedes-Benz. 0.2 of a second between Chasey and Jacques Bottas. There's Jacques just in there, and right behind him is Mitchell. Right behind him is Mitchell. There's a second between Jacques Bottas and the man that's just behind him, Byron Mitchell, for Durant Motorsport.
Well, everything you hoped for, wished for, and more. So let's go from the top end of the field as we are almost 8 minutes into it. It is Umpi Swart that leads them out. It's Troy Dolenchik that's 5 seconds behind him. Then that Julian Familiaris, Luke King, and then Jason Gutierrez. Chase Herald's doing very well, as is Jacques Bottas.
Yeah, Jacques Bottas right on his case, then right behind Bottas we just see there Byron Mitchell come into view. Right on his case is John Weiss and Luc Lecchesi. Right behind him is Stefan Wessels. There Stefan Wessels comes through. I think it's a Rockstar sponsoring, but he's racing team Astra. That's a team that he races for. So ride aboard Stefan Wessels as he's making his way towards Ascari.
Andrew Thomas ahead of Noah Hendricks, who's up from 15th back up to 13th position is Noah Hendricks. Zach Foster way down, that's not where he wants to be. Then Willem Botha is the next man that's coming through after that, and Willem Botha also nowhere near where he would have liked to be. Ooh, looks like Chase Herald's having a look at the Jacques Botha.
Yeah, well, he's doing very well. Chase Herald racing on the side of that BMW. He's all over the back there of Botha. There's 0.3 of a second between the two of them, and then there's 1.7 between Chase Herald and Byron Mitchell in that Durant Motorsport Audi. He is just ahead of John Weiss. There the two of them race down, and then coming through now is Noah Hendricks, and he sits there just behind the 14 car of Racebook Media's man Andrew Thomas. Says he has a look up on the inside and gets it all wrong and gives that position right back there to Andrew Thomas. But now right on his case is Zach Foster and Willem Botha. They right now on the case of him as they race down towards Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2.
Oh, Tristan Nobriger, big hitter, way back. Johan Ferry, big hitter, way back. Graham Stephen, big hitter, way back. Willem Botha, Stephen Duplessis, outside of the top 15. You would not have expected that whatsoever. Jonty Weiss looking pretty good on the back end of Byron Mitchell.
Yeah, and he is closing up onto the back end there of Mitchell. Luc Lecchesi, 0.6 of a second behind him. We're looking at Jonty Weiss, and that car you see ahead of him is the Byron Mitchell Durant Motorsport Audi R8, as they are now working their way towards Ascari. It's a left, right, and then left, and then they turn and run down that long straight that takes them towards a final corner that is Parabolica.
So Troy Dolenchik leading out that train of cars. He's not been able to hold on to Umpi Swart. Umpi's driven into the future. Look at that. There's Umpi all the way up front. Troy Dolenchik good enough to hold out the best of everybody else. Julian Familiaris and Luke King right in there as well. Don't forget about that battle with Jacques Botha just ahead of Chase Herald. Byron Mitchell in there just behind that. He's got a long train of cars behind him. Stephen Wessels finds himself right in the middle of that lot as he tries to close up on them. But Jonty Weiss looks like he's going to be going for the move.
Yeah, Jonty Weiss, well, I don't think they was going to make any moves stick there on Byron Mitchell, but boy, is he going to give it a go. Right behind him is Lecchesi. Behind Lecchesi is Wessels. That's a group of cars you see busy working. They were up towards Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. Into that right-hander, and then up that hill towards the double right-hander. That is Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. There is Andrew Thomas. He's there in that 13th position. He's been chased down there by Zach Foster. And right behind Foster is Willem Botha. And right on the case of Willem Botha in the Audi R8 is Graham Stephen.
Yeah, Graham Stephen is right in there as well. But Oh, it's a long way down for Graham Stephen. That's not where he wanted to be whatsoever. Julian from the RS. Is he holding on to the back of Troy Dolenchik? Yes, he is. Is Luke King holding on? Yes, he is. Is Jason Kutsia? No, he is just outside of that slipstream, and he's gone up to 1.6 seconds.
Yeah, 1.6 isn't much. You just see him come into view there, and then 3.6 behind him is that AMG Mercedes-Benz of Jacques Buerta, and he's only 0.6 of a second ahead of Chase Herald as we ride aboard here with Familiaris. Looking back there to the Dotsoft, the BMW of Luke King that sits in there just behind the Familiaris as they work their way. Let's have a look where they are. They're going down the main straight, going down the home straight towards that kink and racing towards Curvo Grande.
Oh, I think he's going to have a look. Julian from the RS is right on the back of Troy Dolenchik, but Troy Dolenchik, last of the lake breakers, you don't catch him out very easily. But as long as Troy Dolenchik has to hold out on Julian from the RS, I think Luke King has got enough pace to be able to stay with him. Jason Kutsia, I think, is playing a bit of a waiting game at this stage of the fight. He knows he's just a little bit off their pace. Rather than throw it at the scenery, rather stay right there. Troy Dolenchik is going to have to keep an eye, because if Julian from the RS was just intending to pace and stay with him, he wouldn't sit as close as what he is. He is sitting very, very close. And look at how the guys are starting to spread out just a little bit behind them. Jacques Buerta's got a problem, and his problem is called Chase Herald.
Yeah, Chase Herald is right in there, 5/10, nearly 0.6 of a second between the two of them, and 1.7 behind them is Byron Mitchell sitting there in P8 as Chase Herald chases down Jacques Buerta. Behind Byron Mitchell, John T. Weiss. I must say, John T's having a good one sitting there in the top 10, and he is fighting for dear life, because right behind him is Luke Lucchesi. There's Luke Lucchesi coming into view, and just behind Luke Lucchesi is Stefan Wessels.
Yep, Stefan Wessels finds himself just outside of the top 10, and he's got a bit of a gap between himself and Noah Hendricks, so that'll suit him quite fine. Willem Buerta is starting to put the pressure on. Johan Ferrari has just gone up one position. Remember, he had that off earlier on, and he dropped right down to 23rd position. Johan Ferrari has now got himself up ahead of JJ van der Merwe, and he's now got to chase down a Tristan de Nobrega.
A horror show. De Nobrega should not be in P19. I don't know if anything went wrong that we didn't pick up, but it's so not where De Nobrega is supposed to be, that's for sure. So maybe there is a replay of what happened to Tristan, because if there is, we missed it. Because trust me, believe me, I'll tell you this for nothing, Tristan should not be in that 19th position. So this is a replay of De Nobrega. That's in car 70.
Well, that shows that he went off track, but that was basically it. That didn't lose him any time whatsoever. I don't see any other specific incident on my race review where I can pick up that something has happened to Tristan at all. So I think it must have been just a couple of slow sectors here and there. Because there's been nothing too major that has happened to Tristan de Nobrega so far. In fact, remember, Tristan de Nobrega did come out of the pits after the green flag went down. Tristan de Nobrega actually started off the back end of the pack, and yeah, that explains why he is a long way down. Julian from the RS still holding on to Troy Dolenchik.
That's quite right, Gaz. I didn't take that into consideration. That is the reason why it's all the way down 9P20, because Ferrari has got his nose ahead of him as well. However, at the sharp end of the field, 7.3 behind Swart is that man you see there, Dolenchik, then Familiaris coming through, then King. There's Luke Lucchesi. Now he's having a look up there on the left-hand side of John T. Weiss. John T. Weiss covers that line. Stefan Wessels is in there 0.6 of a second behind the combination of Weiss and Lucchesi. Oh, John T. went a little bit wide there in that left hand, offered an opportunity there for Lucchesi that was coming out of Parabolica, but Weiss has done enough down the main straight to so far stay ahead there of Pantera Racing and race driver SA Esports, Luke Lucchesi.
Show confidence, Frankie. Don't say so far, but then again, we expected that to happen as he dives it up on the inside. as you said, so far. Luke Lucchesi, oopsie, and knowing Luke Lucchesi, he will not take the position away. He will make sure that he does it correctly, but look who comes to play.
2 positions he gains there is Stefan Wessels. He gets past the combination of Weiss and Lucchesi. It's an old story of 2 dogs fighting for a bone, and the third dog walks away for it, or with it I should say, and that is what happened here, as the 2 of them lost out there to Stefan Wessels, that finds himself in P9, 3.8 behind Byron Mitchell.
Remember, Luke Lucchesi is the man that's put together the season number 9 of Masters with the new format, and he's the man that is saying you will drive correctly or you will get chucked off the series. There must have been some form of contact between himself and Jonty, thus letting Jonty get an opportunity to get going again and then continue along behind him. You've got to practice what you preach. Luke Lucchesi did just that. Let's go back to what's this guy's name again?
Oh, that's Mr. Yuri Umpi Swart of
Mr. 7 Seconds
Motorsport and Bullion IT, and we can mention it all. That sits out there in P1. He is nearly 7.5 seconds ahead of Dolacek, Familiaris and King. There you see the 3 of them race down towards that right-left chicane that takes you towards a Curva Grande. And then we see that is a Dolacek you see on screen there, and he's trying to keep the man of Mobile One V8 Supercars, Familiaris, behind him for Durant Motorsport. Then the Dotsoft Racing BMW P4, that's a Luke King. And Lucas 2.4 seconds ahead there of Jason Kutsia of Durant Motorsport and Mint Wrap Works on the side of that 77 BMW RVs. And he's 3.9 seconds ahead of that AMG Mercedes-Benz of Jacques Buerta, and he's been hassled heavily here, 5/10 of a second between himself and Chase Herald of Chase Herald Motorsport, and closing on them 1.7 is Byron Mitchell.
And then this fight, Stefan Wessels from Jonty Weiss, and then Luke Lucchesi, and not that far behind them, back up to 12th position, having dropped down to 15th is Noah Hendricks. Zach Foster, a long way down. Something must have gone wrong. There's no reason why that Mercedes-Benz car driver combination is that far back. Zach Foster, but ahead of the very highly acclaimed Willem Buerta, and then Andrew Thomas, Graham Stephen after that incident that he had, and then behind that Stephen Duplessis. But I think we've got to go and have a look at Jonty Weiss, because that gap is just so small between himself and Stephen Wessels.
Yeah, that is that fight out there for basically 9th, 10th position. We ride aboard with Jonty. Yes, he's in P9, 3/10 of a second behind Stefan Wessels in that Audi as they work their way out of the Parabolica. Down the home straight they go. So now will Jonty Weiss have a lunge somewhere here on Stefan Wessels as they work their way towards that kink and the Curva Grande? Yes, he will. If he's going to have to make the move, he's going to have to make it stick. If he goes, he must go now, and he must not back out of it, and he does. He backs out of it and lunges up on the inside. Well, that might have been just some good thinking there by Jonty Weiss, and he moves up there, heading into Curva Grande, ahead there of Wessels, and moves into that 9th position.
Well, Luke Lucchesi is still in the game. He's right in there behind Stefan Wessels. And can he make the move from where he is? Just a 10th of a second. But Stefan Wessels, not an easy man to pass. He is very smooth, very, very quick, and just does not make mistakes.
These guys have to be careful, because this entire temple of speed is littered with sausage curbs, and there's quite a few of them around this racetrack. So you've got to be very, very careful where you put your wheels, because if you climb on those, you could find yourself in a little bit of trouble. As Luke Lucchesi is now right on the case of Wessels. There's a 10th of a second between them, fighting it out for that 11th position. Into Ascari they go. There's a couple of sausage curbs there, small sausage curbs, but they're there nonetheless. There's one that they're climbing over as they work their way down towards a Parabolica. And he was going to go, he's going to have to go now. There's a tenth of a second between himself and Wessels. Wessels has placed it out here in the center of the road, and there's no way through into the parabolica for Luke Lucchesi.
Using the curbstone and a little piece of grass. He actually gets pretty good drive through there. It's 0.32 of a second as he comes out of the corner. Can he close it down? 0.30. Wessels has started to realize that he's got a bit of a run from behind us. Luke Lucchesi is going to have to hold that line now, and he might have to just close it off. Nope, I think he's got enough space between the two of them. And remember, just in front of that is Jonty Weiss.
Yeah, Jonty Weiss sitting out there in that 9th place. Remember, he made that move stick there on Wessels as they worked their way through Curva Grande. And from there, they go up that long right-hander towards Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2, still working their way towards Lesmo 1. But before they get to Lesmo 1, I think there's another, there is another left-right chicane. Look at those sausage curves that's waiting for you there. You don't want to go there. And now they work their way towards Lesmo, and Lucchesi lunges on the outside of Wessels, and he makes a move stick into Lesmo 1. It is Lucchesi that makes the move there on Stefan Wessels.
Why do you think Wessels opened up for him?
Because I think he's saying, I can't get to Weiss, I'm going to give you a gap to try and fetch him, and then I'll just tag along with him.
Is it maybe not because of the fact that Noor Hendricks, lap for lap, was closing up behind while they were fighting one another? Let Luke go through, use Luke as your marker and as a way of going a bit quicker, and like that stay ahead of Noor Hendricks.
Well, anything is possible out there, because Noor Hendricks is being closed there by Zak Foster. There's 1.6 between Hendricks and Foster in that Monster Energy AMG BMW, and behind him is Willem Botha. Behind Willem Botha is Andrew Thomas. Then it is Peter Hubert, and right behind him is Graham Stephen.
Second to the front end of the field, Troy Darlinchik from Julian from the iRSA. From the iRSA actually closed up quite a bit towards the end of the straight, and it almost looked, according to the times, like there was a possibility that there would have been a passing maneuver. That's how close Troy Darlinchik has got accompaniment from behind by Julian from the iRSA. That's 0.2 of a second. And let's just have a look at the lap speeds that they are actually doing at that time. Let's just see if we can pick that up for you on the dashboard. There we go. 180, 190, down to 150, down to 140 kilometers an hour. Climb on the gas. Now you start building the speed up. 180, 190. Climb hard on the brakes again, all the way down to third gear. Now you get the hammer down up to 140, 190, 200, 210. Fourth gear up to fifth gear, 220. 230, still holding that fifth gear. Get the revs up nice and high. Not going towards sixth gear. 250 kilometers an hour. And then you climb on the brakes and you look behind you, and Julian from the iRSA is still there.
And so is Luke King, for that matter. That was going down towards Ascari. Now they'll pick up the speed heading towards Parabolica. And 250 k's an hour, approaching 240 there for Luke King. 250 for Luke King. Will he get to 255? He does. 256, as a matter of fact, is Luke King as he works his way now through the Parabolica and chases down ahead of him Familiaris and Darlinchik.
Let's talk some technology. It's called pit stops.
50 minutes on.
I like the way you think.
Look, we've been doing this 90 minutes for I don't know how long, so anytime between 45 and 50, but I'm tending to go with about 50, 51 minutes, a quick splash and dash, and then from there use hoof it until the hour and a half is done.
Well, let's see, has anybody actually been in for pit stop yet? Nobody, up until Tristan de Nobrega. Now remember, Tristan de Nobrega was in the pit lane when the race started, so he's come from 27th position up to 19th, has Tristan de Nobrega. Everybody else has stayed out there, which is actually quite amazing and totally flippin' brilliant, if you ask me. As we go back to that second and third place battle, got to keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, that's a Darlinchik and Familiaris, 0.3 of a second between them. 1.3 behind them is Luke King, and then 2 seconds behind King is Jason Kutsia. And there he goes, mid-wrap works, and Durant Motorsport, car 77 in the 5th position. And he is 5 seconds ahead of Jacques Buerta, who is the lead Mercedes-Benz out there. And then behind him for Chase Herald Racing is Chase Herald in that 29 BM. And then 4.5 seconds behind him sorry, 2 seconds behind him, I lie, is Byron Mitchell for Durant Motorsport and Dolphin Engineering. Then John Weiss coming through. Behind him is Luke Lucchesi. And then behind Luke Lucchesi is Stefan Wessels. And not too far behind Wessels is Noah Hendricks and the second Mercedes-Benz of Zak Foster.
Yep, then we go back to 14th, Willem Buerta from Andrew Thomas. He's had a pretty decent one. He rounds out the top 15. Graham Stephen. Then behind that, the recovering Johan Ferrari, the recovering Stephen Duplessis, the recovering from the pit lane, Tristan de Nobrega. No train behind him. It's an empty train. Tristan de Nobrega is the man that's pushing right now.
Yeah, he's definitely the guy that's pushing, but how do you get from there into the top 10? You're going to have to try and make a pit stop work for you. That's what De Nobrega is going to have to try and do, because he is really in trouble at this point in time. Ahead of him is the other Porsche of Stephen Duplessis, but we go back to the business end of the field in that fight for second and third position between Dolacek and Familiaris. And now 1.1, make it 1 second. Closing up on the two of them is that BMW of Luke King.
Well, Luke King will be having a good look at what's happening in front of him. It looks something like that, and he'll say, guys, please fight it out. Go one-on-one with one another. Go side by side. Knock one another a little bit. I'll keep an eye on you guys from your... Oh, those sausage curbs that Frankie just spoke about. It's not just the sausage curb. The problem is it's 90 degrees to the direction that you're going. And here we go. It looks like they're getting pretty close to one another, because Julian Familiaris is starting to move from side to side.
I see the biggest loser there in positions is Johan Ferrari in P17. He dropped down 11 positions. And Peter van der Spey in 25th position. He lost 8 positions. De Nobrega obviously losing 6. But the top two in losing positions there is Van der Spey and Ferrari.
Well, these two very close to one another, and another two that are also very close to one another. Is he going to go for the dive? Let's stick with that one. No, he's not going to. Here comes Chase Herald. Chase Herald's also closing up on the back of Jacques Buerta. Can he go for a dive? No, I think that's coming from too far back. He closes up very well. Jacques Buerta actually started losing the tail end slightly under braking, and that's what brought Chase Herald just a little bit closer. But remember, Chase Herald's also got to be a little bit careful, because this guy is not far behind him, Byron Mitchell.
Yeah, well, he's going to have to get a move on, because he's 2 seconds behind the Buerta-Herald combination is Byron Mitchell. So that's the two of them you see in front there, and they're working their way up now towards Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. There's Jonty Weiss in that 9th position. Behind him is Luke Lucchesi, and Luke is now slowly but surely edging away from Stefan Wessels, nearly 1.7 seconds between Lucchesi and Wessels. That's in that 11th position.
Man on the move, Luke King closing up slowly but surely. He is not giving up on these guys in front of him. Will he go, if he can get to them, and he's almost there, let's be honest, will he go for a passing maneuver? I don't think so. I think he's got a big enough gap on Jason Kutsia to just stick with him. Troy Dolanchik's worried. He's starting to change the lines. Troy Dolanchik knows that Julian Familiaris is a little bit too close.
Yeah, you know what, I don't think that Troy is too stressed about it at this point in time. He's just hanging in there. We've only done, 31 minutes, almost 31 minutes. So there is, 59 minutes still to go, including pit stops. And that could determine a lot of things, those pit stops, when we get there. But Chase Herald at this point in time is 0.4 of a second behind Jacques Buerta, as the two of them race down towards that chicane and then towards Curva Grande. There is Luke Lucchesi. He's getting a lot closer to the man ahead of him, and that is Jonty Weiss. There is Weiss. There is Lucchesi. Behind them is Stefan Wessels. Behind Wessels is Noah Hendricks. And behind Noah Hendricks is Zak Foster.
Yep, the next man behind Zak Foster is then Andrew Thomas. Here comes Graham Stephen, and flashing his lights behind him is Johan Ferrari. Or is that just a reflection? Tristan de Nobrega from Stephen Duplessis. Then it's Raymond Duggan. Then going side by side, Sandra Bakari and JJ van der Merwe. Then we have Corne Briet. That's the next man coming through. He'll be hoping something happens between Raymond Duggan and Sandra Bakari ahead of them. Chase Herald still pretty close. Luke Lucchese's on the move. Luke Lucchese is right in behind John Device. He's going for the kill.
Yeah, that's that fight there for ninth position. They're working their way out of Lesmo 2. Now they race down under that bridge that you will see when it comes into view. That's the old oval. That's the bridge that they're going underneath now. That is that famous oval that's at the Monza circuit. So now they work their way into Ascari. Through Ascari, those 90-degree sausage curbs is not going to be very friendly. They don't like you at all, that's for sure. And they've been put there for a reason, and that's to cause chaos. And Lucchese in that 10th position. Yes, he is closing up on Vice. There's 0.4 of a second separating the two of them.
I think with 32 minutes gone, not that far from the pit stops, the likes of Johan Ferrari is normally the first guy that goes in for a pit stop. I think keep an eye on Johan Ferrari. If you see him go in, then you know from there on out, that's where everybody else is going to start going in. Johan Ferrari down in the 17th position, 11 positions down. He's all over the back of Graham Stephen.
Yeah, he's busy clawing his way back there. He's Johan Ferrari, and he sits there in that 17th position. He dives to the right-hand side there of Graham Stephen. He's going to have to make the move stick now. He cannot back out of it now because that little right-left chicane will be waiting for him, and he makes that move stick successfully before that chicane, and ahead of him is that 14 Porsche of Andrew Thomas.
Andrew Thomas can't be overly excited when he looks in his mirror and he sees that.
Yeah, looks into the eyes there of Ferrari and Stephen, knowing that they are right in there behind him. There is like 0.8 of a second between Thomas and Ferrari, and 0.4 of a second between Ferrari and Stephen, so they are not far behind Thomas. As a matter of fact, the gap is closing up, and Thomas's 15th position is under attack.
Luke Lucchese all over the back end there of Jonty Vice. Jonty having a very, very good run. To stay ahead of Luke Lucchese, you've got to get up pretty early in the morning. Stephen Vessel's not that far behind them. The gap between Luke King and Julian from the iRSA is now smaller than the gap between Julian from the iRSA and Troy Dolenchik. So Troy Dolenchik is now making just a little bit there. You can see Troy Dolenchik right up front. He is actually making a bit of a gap now between himself and Julian from the iRSA.
Yeah, the gap is ever so slightly there between Dolenchik and Familiaris, 0.4 of a second and 0.6 of a second between Julian and Luke King, as they race down towards turn 1, and then 3.1 separating King from Kutsia. There's Jacques Porta, Chase Herald coming through, as we see Luke Lucchese right on the case there of John Device, as they race towards that little chicane, the King. And then from there, they work their way through Curva Grande. Zach Foster has closed up onto the back end there of Noah Hendricks. And Ferrari's making a move. Ferrari is making a move on Willem Botha. And no, he makes a move on Thomas, sorry. He makes the move that Andrew Thomas, all these Porsches are more or less the same. But it is Andrew Thomas that has to yield that position there to Johan Ferrari. And he will now come under attack from Graham Stephen.
Now that's the problem that Johan Ferrari sits with. Look at all of that tar. And further in the distance, 4.7 seconds up the road, he can't even see the man at this stage of the fight, is Willem Botha. That's the man he's got to try and get to. Not going to be easy.
We just saw Botha disappear into that right-hander, and that is into Lesmo 1 and into Lesmo 2.
Yep,
there
there
he
you can
turns
see.
into Lesmo 2 now, does Willem Botha. So Johan Ferrari, 5 seconds, 4.3 seconds now behind Willem Botha is Ferrari. You can just about see him go under that bridge. So he will have missile lock on him, but he's still got a bit to do. He's 4.2 seconds behind Willem Botha.
Somebody with a slightly nicer view on board is this man, Luke Lucchese, as he works his way down the Retafilio. and through Rethathelio he goes underneath the Fly Emirates Bridge. Is he close enough this time to have a go at Jonty Weiss? I don't think so. I think Jonty's got the pace. 1 minute 48.9, 1 minute 48.9, just the 100th of a second between the two of them.
Now that was coming out the Parabolica and working their way down that main straight. I don't think Luke Lucchesi wants to stare into the back end there of that Jonty Weiss BMW anymore. He'd rather want to see what Juan Ferrari is seeing, and that is clear track ahead of him, because Weiss is 3.7 seconds behind Byron Mitchell, so Luke would rather like to clear him, have some clear track, and see if he can gun down Byron Mitchell and close the gap. Right now, that's not happening for him. There is Luke King. He's in that 4th place. They're just coming out of Lesmo 2. They're busy working their way down towards Ascari. Under the Emirates Bridge, under the oval they go. And up that little hill into that left, right, left combination that is Ascari. King sits out there. He's 0.5 of a second behind Familiaris, who's 0.4 of a second ahead of second place man, or behind second place man, I should say, Troy Dolacek.
So from one Luke to the other, from Luke King to Luke Lucchesi, he's all over the back of Jonty Weiss. But I think Jonty Weiss is actually doing a very, very smooth job out there. You don't see much of a variation in the gap between the two of them, and even when Lucchesi is in his slipstream, he can't make up that much. Look at that, 3.2, 3.1, 3.0, 2.9, and then you're in the brake marker. Work your way through the corner, lose the downforce, 0.45, 0.44. Now let's see how much can Lucchesi catch up from there. 0.42, 4.1. It's not going to be enough. 4.0. It's not going to be enough. Jonty Weiss is doing it right. Jonty Weiss is doing it right. Luke Lucchesi does not have an answer.
And just behind them is a little fight that's going on there between Stefan Wessels. Well, Wessels is the next guy. There you see him come into view, and then behind Wessels there's a little fight going on between Noah Hendricks and Zach Foster. 0.6 of a second between the two of them in P12 and 13. At this point in time, there's Wessels, and then you just saw Hendricks and Foster in there. But Graham Stephen is trying to close up there on Andrew Thomas, or as we call him, Andy Thomas as well, of Racebook Media. And right on his case, behind him is De Nobrega. So Tristan De Nobrega is on the move. There's 0.2 of a second between himself and Graham Stephen.
Frankie, you still stand by your calculation of 50 minutes into the 90 is when they start with the pit stops?
Yes, I do. But if I was Tristan De Nobrega, I'd maybe try and think out some other strategy here involving a pit stop that he can maybe, when they dive in, he can do the overcut and run around them and try and make up position. So maybe Tristan should think of trying to pit, or maybe pitting a bit earlier. I don't know, because I don't like the fact that this youngster is sitting there in P18. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think that if Tristan, if he can't go any quicker and he can't use Graham Stephen to be able to pull him along, then I would say rather get out of that fight, go into the pits, get away from sitting behind Graham Stephen. If you're gaining like that, it's worth it. If you're being held up, no, go into pits.
Well, as I said, Tristan said to me at the Karting Nationals, a lot of updates has been done on a lot of the cars, and will handle, or the cars will handle differently. But so far, he's there in an 18th position, and there's 0.2 of a second between himself and Graham Stephen in P17, and they're chasing down Andrew Thomas. Now, will De Nobrega look up on the inside? He's going to have a look. He's going to make the move stick. Well done there to Tristan. Just before that right-left curve that takes you towards Curva Grande. And he's moved up now to 17th position. Flashing lights nogal at Andrew Thomas, saying, listen here, bud, you can hold on to that 16th position for now, but I would like that position with 41 minutes done. And a big, big thanks to Canvas Intelligence, Motorsport SA, and Second Gear Productions.
Well, I think it's a case of Tristan saying to Andrew Thomas, remember that guy Graham Stephen? Do you think that was a problem? Check this lot. I'm all over the back of you. And Tristan De Nobrega all over the back of Andy T. and they working their way through the top end of Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. Umpi Swart has up-dusted and disappeared. He is in a class of his own. Remember this guy? His name is Umpi Swart. Look at that. There's nowhere anybody near him whatsoever. 15 seconds. I've never seen that kind of lead anywhere before in a race like that. Troy Dolenchik from Julian from the RS from Luke King. Then back to Jason Kutsia. Bit of a lonely one, but he's doing well. Jacques Buerta holding out there on a Chasey Herald, holding out on Byron Mitchell. The next one that's coming through there behind him, that is Chase Herald. You'll see now. Let's see what it looks like in car when you go from top speed, down a gear, down another, turn it in, use the curbstone, stay away from the sausage curve, use the curbstone, and in there behind him is Byron Mitchell.
Byron Mitchell's only 1.1 behind him now, so Mitchell is closing up there on Herald, and then Jonty Weiss has still been hassled heavily here by Luke Lucchesi. Then there's a bit of a gap before we see Stefan Wessels, and behind him is Noah Hendricks, and 7/10 of a second behind him is the Mercedes-Benz of Zach Forster. That's the three cars you see working their way now towards Lesmo 1. Then we've got Willem Botha that sits there in that 14th position. He's just over 6 seconds behind Zach Forster, and he has been caught systematically there by Johan Fourie. That's 2.5 seconds behind him.
Let's have a look at the last lap times and see how Johan Fourie is doing. A 1:48.8, a 1:49.4. That's quite a big difference. Johan Fourie closing on Willem Botha. According to my crew chief, Frankie Hirnes, he says it's got around about 6.5 minutes from now before they're going to start going into the pits.
I'm looking at Johan. He's running more or less the same lap times as what Lucchesi is, just pretty much the same as Luke Lucchesi. So completely out of sync with all the other lap times is Johan Fourie. Shouldn't be in P15, but yeah, we saw him lose the tail end of that Ferrari towards the beginning stages of this race.
Top 10 all been able to do 1 minute 48. The only man quicker than that is Troy Dolenchik on a 1:47.7. Everybody else 48 and upwards. Sorry, Umpi Swart on a 47.7. He is the only one that's managed to do that kind of lap time, so that makes for pretty interesting stuff. And still nobody goes into the pits.
No, I'm saying anything from 15 minutes onwards. Here comes the 7-0 car, and that is Tristan Nobrega. Right behind him is Andrew Thomas. Right behind him is Graham Stephen, as they work their way into that little right-left chicane, which takes them into that Curva Grande, that long right-handed sweep that just keeps on forever and ever until you find the next chicane, which will take them to Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. Thomas going through, Graham Stephen going through, as they work their way towards that second chicane and then into the two Lesmo corners.
I'm starting to think they're going to start working their way towards the pit now. Remember, 90 minutes, half of that, 45, and that is around about now to the second. Umpi Swart leads them out. Frankie, take us through the field.
Well, you saying 45, I'm saying 50 plus. This guy, class act, that I must say. 16 seconds ahead of Dolenchik in second position is that man, Yuri Swart of Durant Motorsport. He's already put a lap there on Alvin Sykes. That's in 26th position. There is Dolenchik busy working his way through in second. 7/10 of a second between himself and Familiar. Is a PB there for Dolenchik and for King. 1:48.1 and a 48.3 there for King, as the three of them head into that little chicane. Then we see Jason Kutsia coming through as well for Durant Motorsport, and then where is Chase Herald? There comes Chase Herald, and he's got Byron Mitchell crowding the back end of him. And then we've got Jonty Weiss, who's been hassled heavily here by the 24 Porsche of Luke Lucchesi.
We got two guys that's gone into the pits already, Jacques Buerta and Zach Forster on the 45, or should I say on the 46-minute mark, that they've gone into the pits, and look how far they dropped down very, very quickly, that they are dropping down. Andrew Thomas has got Graham Stephen right in there behind him. Is Graham Stephen going to have a look up in turn number 1? Nope, he decides not to. It's not worth it. And off they go from there. Luke Lucchesi is still pretty close, but he just doesn't have a way around John Tobias.
Well, Familiaris has now been hassled heavily there by Luke King in that fight for third position. There we go. There's Familiaris. And there is King in there behind him. And Julian closing up onto the back of Troy. So the three of them are still fighting it out for that second position. And Julian and Luke have not let Dolacek get away. Kutsia is 4.2 seconds behind them in a lonely fifth position. As we ride aboard the BMW, the Dot Soft Racing BM of Luke King in that fourth position. 0.8 of a second between himself and Familiaris. He mustn't lose touch with Troy and with Julian.
Do they all go in one behind the other? Does somebody try and dive in a bit quicker and try and get in a quick lap and make up a position like that? Well, we're going to find out in the not too distant future. Are these three all pushing as hard as what they possibly can? I think Troy Dolacek has realized there's nothing he can do about Umpi Swart on this specific one. Umpi has got the right car driver combination, knows the track, and he's got it. I think Troy's doing enough to keep Julian behind him, but I think Julian's got him riding on 99 tenths out of 100 tenths to actually stay ahead of him, with Luke King that's now falling just a little bit back. That's what it looks like from Julian Familiaris when you're inside of a half a second of the man in front of you.
The only guy that's safe when it comes to pit stops is Umpi Swart. He'll pit out of P1 and rejoin in P1 unless he does something silly out there. He should be the only guy that's safe. Everybody else's positions are not particularly safe. So where's the Nobriga? He sits in 14th, 4.2 behind Buerta. And as I said, if I was him, as we watch this fight between Dolacek and Familiaris, I would make the pit stop before that the top group of about 12 guys heading to the pits, because he's only 2 positions behind Fourie, that is in that 12th position, who is busy fighting his way back up the leaderboard.
I'm going to stick my neck out and say I think Julian Familiaris is going to be the first one that's going to pit. If he can't get to Troy, why sit there? He might as well go into the pits and try and do it another way. Chase Herald. It's not going to be that easy for Chase Herald from here on out, because he's got some company right in there behind him.
Yeah, Chase Herald has been caught there by Byron Mitchell. So Byron Mitchell in that Audi sits right on the case of the Chase Herald BMW as they race down the main straight towards the chicane and towards turn number 1. I see Noah Hendricks, 49 minutes. First man in the top 12 to make his way into pit lane in that Ferrari. So in that top dozen, Hendricks is the first man to hit pit lane.
Well, shall we say that was the first of the big hitters in the top 10 that has actually gone for that dive into the pits. And look how they are all so close to one another. It's actually quite amazing. Let's have a look at the gaps as such, as opposed to the intervals. And there you can see the only man that's not on the lead lap is the 25 of Alwyn Sykes.
Yeah, Peter Hubert is also not on the lead lap, as a matter of fact, in that Pennzoil car. Not exactly where he wants to be. He is also being lapped by the guys. Chase is sitting up there in P6. He's 11 seconds behind Jason Kutsia. And Jason Kutsia has got Herald behind him and Byron Mitchell. Byron Mitchell is the man that you see there as they head towards Ascari. Byron Mitchell in that 7th position is closing up heavily onto the back bumper there of the Chase Herald BMW.
Yeah, he's doing a pretty solid job at this stage of the fight. Is Byron Mitchell putting the pressure onto Chase Herald? Remember, Chase Herald's got nothing in front of him. He's 11 seconds off Jason Kutsia. And he knows he's not going to catch up to Jason. If Jason just keeps on just doing what he's doing, he's set for a top 5. He won't have any problem from it. Is that Chase going into the pits? Yes, it is.
Yep.
Yes, it is. Chase Herald goes
Here we
in.
go.
So, yeah, my crew chief's got it all right once again. Let's see who else is going to be going in there. Is he going to? No, he's not going to. He's going to go straight past. Let's see who's the next one. Johan Fourie. He's normally one of the first guys to go into the pits. Is Johan Fourie going to go in? Yes, he does. Yes, he does. So he's making a plan to go in early. Willem Buerter just outside of the top 10.
If I was Tristan de Nobrega, I'd dive into the pits now, and he did not. De Nobrega has gone through. De Nobrega has gone through. So Noah Hendricks has made his pit stop, and Johan Ferrari has dived into the pits. Graham Stephen is in pits. Raymond Duggan's in pits. Stephen Duplessis is in pits. So, yep, 50 minutes plus, the guys are beginning to work their way into pit lane.
So Chase Herald is in there as well. In fact, he's going to work his way out. Is Chase Herald. And then Johan Ferrari finds himself in the pits. Stephen Duplessis, there he is already in. Graham Stephen, Raymond Duggan, Stephen Cakebread's in there as well. On his way out is Johan Ferrari. He is in 19th position, is Johan Ferrari. But how many people ahead of Johan Ferrari have actually been into the pits? Not that many.
So Johan Ferrari works his way out in that 20th position, as I see Graham Stephen working his way out. Raymond Duggan for Rad Racing is also making his way out. The number 5 car, Stephen Duplessis, is working its way out. Stephen Cakebread in the 65 cars, busy working his way out. As we see a few more cars working their way around. Sandro Baccaro just heading down into turn number 1 in that 72 Ferrari.
Swart is in,
yes.
Troy Dolenchik is in, Luke King is in, Jason Coetzee is in, Byron Mitchell is in, Jonty Weiss is in, Luke Lucchesi and Steven Vessels.
Yeah.
All of them is in. It's only Julian from the iRSA that stayed out. Who's going to be the first man to come out? It's going to be Umpi Swart. He's going to be the first man that's going to get the breakaway to come out of the pits. Who's going to be the second one? It should be Troy Dolenchik if he gets a quick pit stop in, and Troy Dolenchik's on his way out, and Luke King is right there with him as well. Can Jonty Weiss hold on to the position that he was? Luke King is on his way out. Jason Coetzee is going to make up a position. Jason Coetzee up into that 5th position. Byron Mitchell gets out ahead of Jonty Weiss. Jonty Weiss on his way out from a look. Oh, it's chaos as they come out of the pits. And everybody now has done their pit stops except for Peter van der Spey.
Well. So the guys are beginning to move up. Jonty Weiss is not really wanting to be sitting in there behind Herald and just ahead of Lucchesi. And Lucchesi must be saying, what the heck am I supposed to do? I don't want to look at the back end of this BMW anymore. As we see the cars work their way out of the pits. There comes De Nobrega in that 7-0 car, busy making his way out the pits. Willem Buerter made his way out the pits. Here comes Andrew Thomas out the pit lane as well.
And the leader's in.
Yes.
Julian from the iRSA, he's into the pits. So Julian from the iRSA is coming in now. Look at the green, the one on the track map on the right-hand side. That is Julian from the iRSA, and there he stands in the pits. The next one coming through, the number 2, it's Umpi Swart. Whereabouts is Umpi Swart? There is Umpi Swart coming through the last corner. Can he retake the lead?
Yeah,
I think he'll do it quite easily.
Yeah, and as we watched Julian go in, you would have seen earlier on that Van der Merwe worked his way out the pits, and back into the lead again goes Yuri Swart. Well, that we knew for a fact was going to happen. Yuri of Durant Motorsport, Familiaris, should be making his way out. Yes, here he comes out of pit exit, and he will be in that 3rd position. He's been overtaken. He's going to be nailed there by 2 cars. Dolenchik goes through. King goes through on him as well. The car behind them is a back marker. That's Peter Hubert, who sits in 27th position. But Familiaris did not expect to find himself behind Luke King.
Wow, now that's a turn up for the books. He was looking like a podium all day long. Captain Peter van der Spey, the last person to go in, and everybody has now been all the way down to the 25th position. Peter van der Spey is the last one that goes in. We're right on board with Julian from the iRSA with 56 minutes of the 90 minutes. Canvas Intelligent, round number 6, iRacing South Africa, Motorsports South Africa, 60,000 rands worth of prize money. A big thanks to Jaco Steyn that started this whole proceedings with Motorsports South Africa, and has got national status for us, and big numbers thanks to Canvas Intelligence.
Yeah, talking about Canvas Intelligence, as 56.5 minutes is done in this one. Next week, Wednesday, we come back to you and we will bring you the Porsche Cup. But that is a week from today. Jonty Weiss in that ninth position, chasing down, excuse the pun, chasing down Chase Herald. And then 0.6 of a second behind Weiss, rounding off the top 10, is the Porsche of Luke Lucchesi.
So you say Jonty's chasing?
Chasing Chase.
He's chasing Chase. Ooh, that's a nice run through there. I think Jonty Weiss might be able to make the move on Chase Herald. He's got a lovely drive out of there. Let's look at it from upstairs.
Yeah, but keeping in mind that Chase Herald is hunting down and he's chasing Jacques Buerta. That is just ahead of him. So they're all fighting for that 7th position. Those 4 cars you see going there into that right-hander. That's at fight for 9th position. Making their way out of Parabolica and heading down the main straight.
Sounds like a lot of chasing going on down there, if you ask me. Chase
yeah.
Herald in that 8th position. Can he hold on to it? He's very brave or very confident on the brakes. He doesn't close the lineup at all. Whoa, bang, into the back of Chase Herald. And Jonty Weiss gets away with that one. And there's no damage done with Jonty Weiss into the back of Chase Herald.
I don't think he banged him, but just shoved the camera underneath his bumper.
Maybe the camera's on like a stalk or something or other, and it fits just nice and neatly in there. Well, that's as close as you get without actually turning to chaos. Chase Herald on the back of Jacques Buerta. Jacques Buerta, probably one of his best races for a long time.
Yeah, I just shoved the camera under that diffuser at the back there to say, have a look. I want to have a look and see how your suspension is there, Mr. Chase Herald. So, Chasey sitting out there in P8, Jonty in P9, Luke Lucchesi in P10, and the 3 of them are fighting for Jacques Buerta's 7th position. 0.4 of a second between Buerta and Herald, then 0.2 of a second between Weiss and Herald, and 0.3 of a second between Lucchesi and Weiss. So the man that's coming under attack in that Mercedes-Benz is Jacques Buerta. There you see Jacques is leading that group, and then he has got Chase, Jonty and Luke right on his case there, 8, 9 and 10.
Doesn't get much closer than that. Luke Lucchesi, a half a second. Oh, Chase Herald's all over the back, and he has on the cup on the inside of Jacques Buerta. Can you make that one stick? Bird's eye view. And let's in fact go one car further forward. Jonty Weiss, and we'll see everything that is happening there. Oh, you can't go second to none like that. Let's see what's going to happen as they go down to turn number 1.
But look who's the clever guy there. Look who's the clever guy there. Luke Lucchesi. He's seeing what's happening.
And he's
looking. Hanging back. He's looking. But he's hanging back. And if these guys take each other out like that, he's going to move up a position or 2. And that's exactly what I knew he was going to do. I saw him just roll off. You guys fight for it. You guys take each other out, and I'll take at least 1 position, if not more. And he did. He got his nose ahead there of Jonty Weiss.
So
good thinking there by Luke.
So you're saying that Luke had a look and he made it stick.
Made it stick there on the bass man. That is Jonty Weiss. That's sitting now in that 10th position.
What a chase.
Yeah, okay. Luke sitting in that 9th place, and you wouldn't bet against him making a move somewhere on the Jacques Buerta BMW, and then even going after Chasey Herald and putting himself up into P7. He needs to get a move on, because he's been sitting in a pack for most of this race, or been looking at another car ahead of him, and I don't think that Luke Lucchesi wants to see that anymore. He wants to pull the plug and he wants to get out of here.
Shooting from the RS, can he do one on Luke King? Frankie, you realize how often there's somebody sitting on Luke King's bumper. You realize how seldom people manage to get past Luke King.
Well, that is familiaris, and I said early on he didn't expect to be behind Luke King. He's now closed the gap up on Luke King. That's the fight for that 3rd position, and you wouldn't count against him making a move somewhere if he can before the lap is over and putting himself back in that podium position.
What's the name of that guy that's leading the race again?
Umpi.
Yeah, he's driven into Thursday morning already.
Have a look,
there
have
we
a
go.
look up on the inside, and that's exactly what he's done. And he takes that position back just before they go into Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2.
And here comes the fight back. Luke King is not out of it. Luke King is all over the back bumper of Julian Familiares. Can he get that position back again? He knows that Familiares will only make a clean move on him. He won't go and do anything stupid. Troy Dolenchik, you see every now and again a little flash of Troy Dolenchik that's just ahead of the, there we go. There you see the dark blue car, and that is the Sujin Properties, the Rookie of the Year for that was very close. He just touched it. Rookie of the Year last year for the Investchem Formula 1600s. I think he's leading the championship this year by the time they left Killarney, and they will be coming back to Killarney for one of the last rounds in the not too distant future.
Yeah, well, they went to Killarney, then they went to Aldous Krabanti. The next one will be East London. So yes, he's leading after they left Scribanti.
Now, how's that for a nice tight battle? Look at that. Point 1 and point 2. That's all there is between the three of them.
So if they keep up this fight, that will bring Jonty Weiss back into play again. That's in P10 1.2 behind these three that you see working their way around the final corner, working their way out of Parabolica. So yeah, Jonty Weiss is now a second behind Lucchesi. So Jonty is going to be right back in this fight again. And now, remember, they were chasing they were chasing Buerta down for that 7th position early on. Now they're chasing Chase Herald down for that 7th position. Once again, a lot of chasing.
Yeah, Chase is actually doing a bit of blocking there as well. Not blocking, but changing the line. Now remember earlier on there was
a defensive drive, and that's what he's doing.
Correct. According to Lewis Hamilton, he can change lanes 4 times, and that's called tactical driving. When anybody does it to him, then it's bad sportsmanship. But coming away from Formula 1 and coming back to Canvas Intelligence GT3 2023, the man on the move, Luc Lucchesi on Jacques Buerta on the back end of Chase Herald. Keep an eye on Luke King as well. Look at Luke King. Luke King got passed by Julian Familiares, a lap and a half. Oh, you can't come over a sausage curb like that too often and get away with it. And Julian Familiares got past Luke King eventually, but he's not managing to get away.
Checking down in P13, Juan Fourie is on the case of Foster. There the two of them go, and they are now working their way towards Ascari. They will go under the oval bridge. Under that bridge they'll work their way now. There's the bridge just behind the Emirates banner, and then towards Ascari, that left right left combination, and then that will take them down towards Parabolica. So is he closing up? Yes, there's 0.6 of a second between Foster and Fourie. Can he get a lot closer? We'll have a look and see, but we go back to this fight, and Chase Herald is leading this group. Behind him is Foster, Jacques Buerta. Behind Jacques Buerta is Luc Lucchesi, and behind Luc Lucchesi is Jonty Weiss.
I think here it's going to become a passing maneuver. He's going to have to try and have a look around the outside. Tristan Dombrega would have been proud of Chase Herald playing train driver with all of these guys, but Chase has got track position, and it's going to be, he's going to hold on to that. And look who comes into play. The man that's been sitting looking, Luc Lucchesi, once again. Right place, right time, and that's how he makes up positions.
He wants to get past. Luc Lucchesi wants to get through. They're going to probably say, come on, Chase Herald, do something. Do something, because Jacques Buerta is attacking. Man, Jacques Buerta is attacking him. And so is Lucchesi. And just as I said, this whole thing has brought Jonty Weiss back into play again.
Yep, Jonty Weiss getting closer and closer, and he'll hope that nobody gets past anybody in that group right now until he's all over the back end of Luc Lucchesi. Then he'll hope that things starts to happen.
Just to mention, Juan Fourie did get his nose ahead there of Zak Foster. Juan has gone to 13th. Zak has dropped down to P14. So just to mention, as we have a look at this fight, Chase Herald, Jacques Buerta, Luc Lucchesi, Jonty Weiss, the 4 of them fighting it out there for that 7th position.
Oh man, this is a lovely one. And Jonty Weiss fancies his chances now. He's got right there with him. He's 0.3 of a second behind Luke Lucchesi. Now Luke, having a little look there, trying to intimidate Chase Herald. But Jonty Weiss is in the game.
A bit further down, there's Stefan Wessels in the 11th position. He's having a bit of a fight there with Noah Hendricks. Here comes Wessels, and there is Hendricks there. It was just under 2 seconds. It's 1.8 seconds between the two of them, and they're looking at that group fighting for 7th position just ahead of them.
Oh,
there's drama. There's drama, and
for them, Jacques Buerta and
Chase
Herald.
And Chase Herald gets sent back in.
Well, unfortunately, Willem Buerta can't do the gentlemanly thing there, because that means he's going to have to let two people go past him, and he can't really afford that at this stage of the fight.
Buerta.
Yeah, let's have another look at that one, the Chase Herald incident as they work their way down. Jacques Buerta is forced to go for the outside line, and then I think Chase Herald closed that line off just a little bit at that stage of the fight, and yeah, it was unfortunately one of those things. Let's maybe see if we can have an on-board look from Jacques Buerta, if that is possible. Let's have a look at that. Let's see what it looks like.
What Gary's trying to find that. We knew this wasn't going to last. They were all over each other, fighting each other, and something had to give. And unfortunately for Chase Herald, he got the bad end of it, and it's cost him heavily. He sits in that 10th position now, 2.9, make it 3 seconds behind Jonty Weiss.
That was a hell of a long slide. He got the gears down very quickly, got it back onto the hard stuff, got it going again, looked in the mirror, made sure it didn't affect anybody else. You can see Noah Hendricks having that little battle with Johan Ferrari that was just behind that. So let's go back to live now, and let's see exactly what the gaps are at this stage of the fight. There's the front three, and Chase Herald 3.4 seconds back. He's now going to be the man that's going to be hoping that something changes. Well, like Jonty Weiss, he was hoping that something happens. It did happen. Now, Chase will be thinking the exact same thing. 1 hour and 9 minutes gone in the 1 hour 30. 21 minutes to go. 38 laps done. Umpi Swart up, dust, disappear. He's in Thursday morning. He's getting ready to go to work tomorrow morning already. Troy Dolenchek 16 seconds off the back of that. And then Julian from the iRSA, Luke King and Jason Kutsia rounding out the top 5. We are busy watching the 7th, 8th and 9th place battle right now, and that being Luke Lucchesi from Jacques Buerta, Jonty Weiss unhappy, irritated, and driving very hard. Chase Herald just behind that.
Yeah, and he's been caught. Here we go, because here comes Stefan Wessels and Noah Hendricks. The two of them are catching him. So the guys in P12 and 11 and 12 is busy catching the man in P10, and that is Chase Herald, with nearly an hour and 10 minutes done in this one. Oh, they're bouncing all over those rumble strip curbs of these guys as they work their way towards the parabolica. So there is a fight for 7th position, and then there's a fight for 10th position as well. And Jonty Weiss had a quick squiz there going into the parabolica up on the inside of the Mercedes-Benz of Jacques Buerta. And as they work each other over, look at Lucchesi. He's just getting further and further away. Luke is now nearly a second ahead of Jacques Buerta, but right behind him, there's Chase Herald. He's got the Stefan Wessels right there with him, and behind Stefan Wessels is the Ferrari of Noah Hendricks.
I think he's got to go into survival mode at this stage of the fight, because having been spat out of that front group and having lost 3 positions, now he's got Stefan Wessels. Give him his due. He gave Stefan enough space on the outside, but just enough space on the outside. And Noah Hendricks is now doing exactly what Jonty Weiss did earlier on. You guys fight it out, have a go at one another, and then I'll have a look at what's left.
But just coming out that corner there, you'll see Johan Ferrari and Zach Foster, and here comes Stefan Wessels. Up on the inside, there's contact. There's contact between himself and Chase Herald. and he has lost out big time there.
Oh, Noah
And,
Hendricks.
yeah, Noah Hendricks says, well, if you guys are going to fight for this, then I'm going to just move up a couple of positions. And so he has just dived up 2 positions in the contact there between between Chase Herald and Stefan Wessels.
Chase Herald must be saying in this moment that he's sitting there, how did I end up out of the top 10? What went wrong? I've done nothing wrong. I shouldn't be out of the top 10.
It's only 0.5 of a second, so that's not done and dusted yet, as a matter of fact. But there is Jonty Weiss. Ahead of Jonty Weiss is Jacques Buerter, and ahead of him is the 24 car of Luc Lucchesi. Here comes Noah Hendricks. Behind him is Chase Herald. Behind Chase Herald is Stefan Wessels, and he has now been caught by both Johan Fourie and Zak Foster.
Well, let's have a look at the lap times that they're busy putting together as they come around. Who's the quicker? Who's the slower? I think that Johan Fourie. Well, oh, that's going to cost. He must have a bit of damage on that motor car. So Johan Fourie, a 49.3, a 52 by Chase Hill, but remember he had that problem. So wow, Johan Fourie looking very good. 48s for the top 5, Jason, Luke, Julian, Troy and Umpi, and that right at the beginning of this one.
I think Stefan Wessels got a drive through. He's in and he's out the other side. It says pit exit. I think Stefan Wessels has been punished because here he comes right back out again. I was watching him. Does he stop or do I see pit exit? I saw pit exit. That tells me that Wessels got a drive-through penalty.
Well spotted. Well, my tactician becoming a spotter as well. Jonty Weiss will be saying, where is that Yennis fellow? Tell me, what do I do? How do I get through here with Jacques Buerter?
Yeah, how do I get past Jacques Buerter? That's going to be another story for Jonty Weiss, because getting away from them is Luc Lucchesi. And Lucchesi 1.1 ahead of the Buerter-Weiss combination. That's busy making its way now out of Ascari and heading down towards Parabolica. There's Chase Herald working his way down, and of course Chase Herald sits there just behind Noah Hendricks, and they are being caught here by Johan Fourie. And behind Johan Fourie is Zak Foster. And then the 2 Porsches coming at the background there. That is Willem Buerter, and right behind him is Tristan de Nobrega.
Yep, that is a long way back for them. And let's see what the lap times are. 49.2 for Luc Lucchesi, 49.4 for Jacques Buerter, 49.2 for Jonty Weiss. Noah doing a 49.5. Oh, there's nothing much in it if you really think about it. And what was that guy that was up front again? The guy that was packing his sandwiches to go to work on Thursday morning. Oh, there he is. Umpi Swart. Yeah, Durant Motorsport. Up, dust, disappear. Good night, guys. He's had a good night's sleep. He's busy packing his breakfast to go to work tomorrow morning. Taking 16 seconds out of Troy Dolenchek.
And he's going to catch Peter van der Spey, who's in 22nd position. And here comes Dolenchek, that's now in that 2nd place. He's 5.7 ahead of Familiaris. There comes Julian out of that left-hander, and he must not take things too easy. Only 1.3 between himself and Luke King. That's there in that 4th position. Then we've got Corne Breed, but he's a back marker. And then on the lead lap in P5 is the Run Motorsports 77 BMW of Jason Kutsia.
Well, Jason's done a pretty good job. You would think that's how far he is ahead of Byron Mitchell. And you got to get up early to get away from Byron Mitchell, that is for sure.
Yeah, behind him is Alwyn Sykes. He's a back marker. And then we see behind the back marker, that is Sykes, we see Luc Lucchesi. And he's still fighting out there with Jacques Buerter and with Jonty Weiss that makes the move up on the inside of Buerter as he makes the move stick. And they do. That's coming out of Parabolica, out of the final corner and down the main straight. And Weiss made the move stick there on Buerter.
GT3 round number 6, iRSA, MSA, and 60,000 rands worth of prize money. A big thanks to Canvas Intelligence and to Jaco Steyn doing the mathematics, the homework, the planning, the organizing, the setups, the practice sessions, all of that goes in the background to get the top 40 in South African iRacing together. Next week we'll be going to the Pro-Am Series, which is everybody that's outside of the top 40, which is still a very impressive group of drivers as well. Make no mistake, as Jacques Buerter makes himself known to Jonty Weiss.
Well, Noah Hendricks in P10 has got Chase Herald there with him. There's 0.8 of a second between the two of them, fighting it out there for P10. That's just behind this fight that we're looking at now on our screens, as they make their way out of Lesmo 2 and work their way down towards Ascari. And there's that fight I spoke about. Here we go. There is Noah Hendricks. Not too far behind him is Chase Herald. And right on his case is Johan Fourie, 1.9 behind Chase Herald.
Let's see what happened to Stefan Wessels.
No, that's the drive-through that he had.
That was a straight drive-through. Yeah, no doubt about it. That was a straight drive-through, and that worked well for him. Let's just have a look at that one again, that Chase Herald incident from a slightly different view. He closes the line off. Yeah, he came back towards the left-hand side. He did come back towards the left-hand side. Let's just have a look at that again, because obviously that is of great interest. Look where Chase Herald is. And he starts coming back across, and that's what closed the line off. Minuscule, the width of a tire. That's all that was in it. But that is what created that situation. And a broken Chase Herald out of the top 10. He cannot be happy with that whatsoever. And I personally feel he didn't deserve that, but it's one of those things. It's motorsports, it's racing, it's happening. It's 15 centimeters to the left-hand side, and all of a sudden your life is very different. Talking about very different, Jonty Weiss looks in his mirror, and that's what he sees.
Yeah, still been hassled there by the AMG Mercedes-Benz of Jacques Buerter. But we were talking about Chase Herald. If you look at that leaderboard just behind him, there isn't much between himself, Fourie and Foster. So there's not too much in that fight for that 11th position that's currently been held there by Chase Herald. But Jacques Buerter sitting there in that 9th position. That's what he sees in front of him, the BMW of Jonty Weiss, as they race down towards Ascari. They put a lap there on Albon Sykes. He just keeps right out the way and allows them through.
I don't think Jacques Buerter is going to be able to close up right now. That wasn't the greatest line through there to get through to the back end of Jonty Weiss. Jonty looked nice and smooth. 48.7s, 48.8s, 48.9. Julian from the RS, Luke King and Jason Kutsia. The next man that will come through on 148.9, and to be Byron Mitchell, will be a 149, just a little bit slower. Then Luke Lucchese, I'm sure he'll come in on the 48s probably. No, a 49.09. So that means Luke Lucchese is not catching Byron Mitchell, as we're still right on board with Jacques Buerter, and he was 0.3 of a second slower than Jonty Weiss, and that was pretty much in that last two corners that I think he lost out on that, and they are in there behind Luke Lucchese.
Yeah, Luke Lucchese trying to get away from them. Luke sitting out there in that 7th position with Weiss and Buerter right on his case. But Gaza, that fight for P10, Herald, Fourie, and for that matter Foster, they are right there behind Noah Hendricks, that's sitting there in that 10th position. As you see the cars disappear into view, there's Noah Hendricks, and right on his case there's Chase Herald, and right behind Chase Herald is Johan Fourie, and right behind Johan Fourie there is an AMG Mercedes-Benz of Zach Foster.
Yeah, Zach Foster's been trailing Johan Fourie for the last 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 laps. 45 laps, 1 hour 20 gone already. There's just 9.5 minutes to go. Is Chase Herald broken by what has happened earlier on? Is that going to make him a sitting duck for Johan Fourie? I don't believe that he's going to give that position away to Johan Fourie very easily whatsoever. Zach Foster is getting a little bit closer, but I don't believe that he's going to be able to become part of that Chase Herald, Johan Fourie fight?
Well, there's enough time. There's 9 minutes left. So if Johan Fourie can make a couple of moves here after having a horror show in the opening sector of this race, he could still even end up in that 10th position and claim a top 10. It's not impossible, but it's easier said than done as they work their way out of Parabolica. Down the main straight they go now because he wants to make a move on Herald, but Herald wants to make the move on Hendricks as well before they get to Curvo Grande.
Well, I think this will be a nightmare for Chase Herald if something goes wrong going into this. Let's throw out the anchor, throw out the spare anchor, throw out the spare anchor, and then start praying, out loud, and then eventually you even up the speed with the car in front of you.
You bit the hole in my bottom lip watching it, watching it fully on that brake pedal.
Just dab your lip a little bit there, Frank. There's a bit of blood on your bottom lip. That's when you run out of anchors, you run out of prayers. You know that if this guy doesn't come off the brake pedal now, you're going to knock him, and it's going to be an issue. That is how close that one was. But I think let's just spend a bit of time with the man of the moment.
Yeah, Swart in the more that he's going to put a lap there on 2 cars, of which Sandro Bakar is going to be the first one, and then Stephen Duplessis will be the second one. Gaz, as a matter of interest, any viewers that's watching?
Oh, I must admit, I haven't really. Gordon Mitchell, looks like the series has become about what car you have. Yes, Gordon, there has been some changes to some of the cars, and it has made a difference. There's no doubt about it.
Yes, Ryan. Gordon. Sorry, Gaza. Gordon, Tristan was telling me that in the pits on Saturday at the Karting Nationals.
Yep, and then John Kerry Hay-Simons joined us as well, and numerous other people. So all of the guys that have joined us, thanks very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And it's a pity that we just haven't got a couple of extra eyes that we can keep an eye on that at the same time. Let's keep an eye on Johan. Oh, he's so close to Chase Herald. It looked like it was only one car there. That was Johan Fourie making the move, and he goes up one position. Chase Herald's going to go for the cutback. Johan Fourie got it out of shape. Chase Herald gives him fair space, and he's now all over the back of Johan Fourie. Can he outbrake Johan Fourie going into the next corner?
Yeah, I think Chase is a touch rattled about what happened early on, because the moment Fourie came through, he rubbed that back bumper of Fourie, and he doesn't like the fact that he's not going to finish, or might not finish this one in the top 10. Chase has to settle down. He needs to settle down, otherwise he's going to lose that position to Zak Foster as well, because Zak is only at second behind Chase Herald. Well, now less than a second.
Yeah, well, Zak Foster has been able to equal the pace of Johan Fourie all night long. It hasn't been a hassle for him whatsoever. So if Johan Fourie gets past Chase and starts making a bit of a gap, then yes, Zak Foster could still get to Chase Herald. But they've only got 2.5 laps to go.
Well, yeah, we're approaching hour and 25, so there's nearly 5 minutes left before we see that checkered flag. And can Johan still get a top 10? He's 1.5 behind Noah Hendricks. So here is Willem Botha, and he's 6/10 of a second behind Tristan de Nobrega. That's in that 14th position, and that's a 2 race driver, SA and esports drivers, and of course Willem as well from Toyota Gazoo Racing sitting out there. And here comes the man that is in P1, that is Swart, and ahead of him are 2 back markers, and he will catch shortly in the likes of Raymond Duggan and Andrew Thomas.
Well, if was not intending to have an early night and he wanted to have a race and then watch himself racing afterwards, he would have had to have taken 1 gear out of the car, put 2 old tires on the front, and then be distracted by something else happening in the house, because he's just been so quick, so clean in his lines, so smooth in his lines. And let's have a look at the fastest lap times. Has he got the fastest lap time as well?
Well, Gaza, as you showed him there, all the cars that was behind him, that's all cars that he put a lap on. That's a whole lot of lap cars that's coming there behind him. Duplessis, Bakari, Behind there's Peter van der Spey. He put a lap there on Captain Pete as well. Sykes is in there. So those are all lap cars that you see there behind Swart. There's Duplessis, and just behind him is Sandro Beccari.
There was a bit of a battle that was going down there between the two of them. So that's fastest lap times. The only person to do a sub 1:48 has in fact been Oompie Swart. Let's go back to Oompie Swart because we've hardly seen him at all. So Durant Motorsport, this man, how do you compete with him? How do you go one-on-one? He doesn't make mistakes. He's so clinical. He thinks it out. He works out tire strategies and timings, and he is the ultimate package right now in South Africa.
Yeah, I know I'm repeating myself, but to reiterate what Tristan said to me in the pits, he said Oompie is going to be a class act. He's going to be a very, very hard guy to beat this coming Wednesday. And never was a truer word spoken there by De Nobrega, because Oompie is nearly 17 seconds ahead of the man you see on screen there, namely Troy Dolenchek.
Now, on any given day, Troy Dolenchek will clean up anywhere, anytime, anyhow, in any kart, in any Formula 1600, in any iRace, in any class, on any track, and 9 out of 10 times there's very few that can hold on to Troy Dolenchek.
So he's on the case of backmarker Stephen Cakebread, and just ahead of Stephen Cakebread is Peter van der Spey. Familiar Harris sees the backmarker in JJ van der Merwe ahead of him, and just behind him there in that fourth position, 3.1, is Luke King.
Yep, and behind that is Jason Coetzee, and Jason has a very lonely race. He really hasn't had anybody anywhere near him. Byron Mitchell a little bit further down than what he would like to be, than what we expected him to be as well. A very competitive 48-1 that just got put in there by Troy Dolenchek. Byron Mitchell having a pretty decent job, and behind him, Luke Lucchese, Jonty Weiss.
Yeah, talking about Byron, remember, caught away into the opening lap, he got himself unsettled, and a lot of cars went through, and that's why he is so far down. Here comes Johan Fourie. Now he's on the case of the man that's in P10, namely Noah Hendricks. So top 10 is a very strong possibility for Johan Fourie. After having trouble of his own. Just ahead of him he sees the Mercedes-Benz there of Jacques Botha, and he is chasing down, Fourie is chasing down Hendricks, and Fourie is 3.5 seconds ahead of Zach Foster, who's still being hassled there by Chase Herald.
Frankie, give me 3 names of people that you feel could do a comeback like what Johan Fourie has done here.
Well, difficult to say.
Troy Dolenchek?
Well, yeah, Troy Dolenchek can. Luke Lucchese can as well. You know what? It's hard to single out. They're all capable of doing just this, and they don't lose their nerve. That's the thing. A guy like Johan Fourie will now hit the reset button and say, okay, listen here, didn't go right. I'm not in it. Let's just systematically work our way through and calm it down. And that's what he has done, and that's why he finds himself in a position where he can possibly still get a top 10.
Well, Oompie Swart has gone past the start-finish line with less than a full lap of time left over to be able to do anything more than the lap that he's on. So to my mind, this is the penultimate lap now for this man, Oompie Swart, the ultimate class act for the day.
Yeah, I think it's his last lap, because hour 30 is done, and he's got 2 back markers that's there with him. Raymond Duggan in the 71 car, he's 3.5 just ahead there of Swart. There the back markers go, and just ahead of Duggan is Andrew Thomas. Don't think he's going to hassle too much with him. He's heading towards Ascari. He is basically at the end of the lap, so I don't think he's going to hassle too much with trying to attack and put a lap there on, or should I say another lap on Duggan and Thomas.
Yeah, no, I think if you think about it, the way they started, Yuri, Troy, Julian and Luke, exactly like they started, and Oompie saying, oh yeah, This is how it works. This is how I've got it. And the front front 2 rows of the grid, no gains, no losses. And Jason could see the biggest mover that has come a little bit closer to the front guys.
Checkered flag is out, and Yuri Swart wins it 17.2 seconds. He crosses the line ahead there of Troy Dolacek that just put a lap there on Peter van der Spey. Dolacek will finish there in that second position, 17.5 seconds to be exact, behind Umpi Swart.
Julian from the iRSA, also for Durant Motorsport, he comes through, the last man on the podium. Julian from the iRSA, he doesn't flash the lights. He says, I would have liked to have been a little bit further forward than that. Well driven, Luke King, very, very good. Pushing hard and very competitive, Jason Kutsia.
Yeah, Jason finishing there in P5, and he is 15 seconds ahead there of Byron Mitchell. As a matter of fact, when Mitchell crosses the line, it is 15.4 seconds behind Jason Kutsia.
There comes Luke Lekezi, the first of the old toppies, if you want to refer to him as that. And the race driver SA car, and John Tivice and Jacques Buerter and Noor Hendricks. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Noor Hendricks just ahead of Johan Fourie.
A tenth of a second just ahead there of Johan Fourie. Zach Foster crossed the line. So did Chase Herald, and Tristan de Nobrega finishes in that 14th position.
Willem Buerter, he was a lot higher up at one stage, ends up starting in 15th, ending in 15th position. 4 places up is Graham Stephen. In the Gulf Colors, he had that problem earlier on. Andrew Thomas, 2 positions up, started 19th up to 17th. And then Raymond Duggan coming through behind that, and that wraps them all up.
I think Raymond Duggan was 8/10 of a second behind Andrew Thomas. I think he was the last man on the lead lap.
Sure, that was wow. That was awesome. That was something else. It doesn't get any better than that. It doesn't. Driver of the day, you would expect him to do well. He is good. He is one of the best in South Africa. He is a class champion. But by such a big margin, my driver of the day, Umpi Swart.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him driver of the day. I would call him the conqueror of the day.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Let's call him the king of the ring, Umpi Swart. Troy Dolacek, let's call him the driver of the day, because he couldn't hold on to Umpi Swart, but he was good enough to beat out a star-studded field directly behind him. And I think Troy Dolacek deserves that second position, because he was, for his age, and if you think he's just such a class act. He's good.
I'll tell you how old he is. He had a birthday last week. He's 17 years old.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
At the karting, we still mentioned the birthday boy. So Dolacek, 17 years old.
Julian from the iRSA, one of our slightly more senior drivers, rounding out the top positions there. Durant Motorsport coming through first, third, fifth, and sixth. Luke King, once again, very, very smooth. Not easy to pass whatsoever. And I think he also deserves a bit of a hoo-ha about the way he's driven tonight.
Another man that's in this series that's putting his hand up to say, you need to notice me, is the man that finished in P8, John T. Weiss.
Yes.
He is another guy that's saying, listen here, don't exclude me. And then I'm also going to feel, my bad luck, where is Stefan Wessels? Okay, you got a drive-through penalty, so you can't give him bad luck. He obviously did something wrong. The comeback, the fight-back kid, I would go for Johan Fourie.
Yeah, definitely. Johan Fourie coming from a long, long way back, and he just systematically worked his way through. Noor Hendricks, not a well-known star driver, but very, very consistent is Noor Hendricks, and getting very, very quick in the 901 car, adding the better part of 11 points to his championship. That was pretty good.
Right, folks, so that wraps this one up for today, and hope you have a great week further and a great weekend. Remember that for the oval track supporters, the biggest oval track race in the country is happening in Oudtshoorn this week, the Klein Karoo Kampioenskappe. And if the weather holds at Killarney, there's short circuit racing on the kart circuit and rallycross on the rallycross circuit. And then, Gaza, we're right back here next week, Wednesday, with the Porsche Cup Series.
Yep, the Pro-Am Series, the Porsche Cup, but that'll be the exact same basis that we have run this evening. A massive big thanks to Canvas Intelligence.
Yeah.
A massive big thank you to
Motorsport SA.
Motorsports South Africa. A massive big thanks to Jaco Steyn for putting this whole lot together, and a big thank you to Luc Lucchesi for coming through behind what is being done on the national scene and picking up on the masters and carrying that through to Luc Lucchesi as well.
And then in rounding off and in closing, a big thanks to Gary as well, Second Gear Productions, for a job well done. That's it, folks. I'm out of here. We'll see you next week, Wednesday, same place, same time. Good night, everyone.
From the Second Gear Studio, myself, Gary Fleming, drive home safely. Good night to you, one and all. Have a great time. See you at a racetrack soon. Good night, everybody.